Hi, I'm Carolina, and in this video, I'll be experimenting with color mixing by creating a color wheel with oil paints. The paints I used are Cadmium Orange, Permanent Green, Cadmium Yellow Light, Cadmium Red, Alizarin Crimson, Ultramarine Violet, Ultramarine Blue, Ivory Black, and Titanium White. I used this book, Color by Betty Edwards, as a reference. It claims to be a course in mastering the art of mixing colors, but to be honest, I don't think it goes into depth enough to actually help you master color mixing. Anyway, the book recommends working with acrylic paints and lists the paints accordingly, so I did my best to find the oil paint equivalents, which, as you'll see later on, turned out to be a challenge. I started out by setting up my palette and used a piece of gessoed paper to paint on. I used a template that came with the book and traced it onto my piece of paper. First, I added the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue, at equal distances from each other. I think that if the primary colors are supposed to be the brightest in the spectrum, then the cadmium red is more muted than it should be, and if I were to try this again, I would use cadmium red light as my primary red instead. The next step is to add the secondary colors, orange, violet, and green. In this book, the author suggests using pre-mixed colors for these because any mixture of pigments will be duller than chemically pure single pigments. This is why instead of mixing my own orange, violet, and green, I'm using cadmium orange, ultramarine violet, and permanent green. The problems with violet started out right away. I put down alizarin crimson, first of all, instead of the ultramarine violet I was supposed to use. But once I cleaned it up and put down the right color, I realized I got the wrong color for this experiment because ultramarine violet is a lot bluer than a true violet. But knowing that violet tends to be a tricky color to mix, I decided to try a few different things with it. So I made a muddy violet by mixing the ultramarine blue and the cadmium red. Next, it was time to mix the tertiary colors: yellow-orange, red-orange, red-violet, blue-violet, blue-green, and yellow-green. I tried making red-violet by mixing my muddy violet with cadmium red, which came out looking like a brownish red. Then I tried mixing my muddy violet with alizarin crimson, which the book suggests using instead of the cadmium red because alizarin crimson mixes better with other cool colors. Then I made blue-violet by mixing my muddy violet with ultramarine blue, which came out very dark and not red enough, so I added alizarin crimson and that made it look a lot better. I didn't have any trouble mixing the rest of the tertiary colors. The only thing I didn't like was, again, how the cadmium red seemed to make the red-orange more muted than it should have been. I also tried making a color wheel using gouache, which yielded okay results. Maybe it's just the quality of the paints I used, but I wish the colors were brighter and more opaque. I'm clearly not a master of color mixing, but I thought I'd try a color mixing experiment with you guys, just for fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll have a new video up very soon.